Okay, let's dive into this. Welcome to today's explainer. We're going to put a micro lens on one of the most famous and, let's be honest, probably the most frustrating cultural idioms about aging ever spoken. You know the one. You've likely heard it 100 times, right? Maybe your grandpa dropped it at a family dinner, or you caught it in some classic movie. Or, hey, maybe you've recently started feeling the creeping truth of it yourself. Today, we're fully unpacking the absolute brilliance, the specific bite, and the profound, kind of uncomfortable truth behind the squandered vitality of youth. We'll look closely at exactly where this idea came from, the exact emotional tone it strikes, and a pretty brutal follow-up thought its creator had on the whole shebang.
Youth is wasted on the young. I just want to pause for a second and let that universally recognized quote hang in the air. 6 simple words. Really take a moment to consider the immense weight of that sentence. It's incredibly efficient, isn't it? In just 6 words, it perfectly captures this massive, sweeping observation about the human condition, the inevitable passage of time, and the strange, honestly frustrating paradox of how we actually experience our own lives. It's one of those phrases that feels so deeply baked into our culture, it almost sounds like some ancient proverb passed down from antiquity. But actually, it doesn't come from antiquity at all. It has a very specific, meticulously crafted origin. To really get that origin, we have to look at the timeline of the guy who actually said it, George Bernard Shaw. Born in 1856 and passing in 1950, the man made it to 94 years old. That's an incredibly long life, especially when you think about how it spanned the late 19th and the entire first half of the 20th centuries. Arriving at this specific observation, that youth is truly squandered, well, that required the hard-earned perspective of a very long life. The passing decades are absolutely crucial here. This isn't the kind of realization you just stumble upon in your 20s or 30s when you're right in the thick of it. No way. This is the synthesis of literally nearly a century of observing human behavior. It's about watching entirely new generations rise and fall, and physically feeling his own vitality shift and change over a huge stretch of time.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is who we're actually dealing with here. George Bernard Shaw wasn't just some casual philosopher passing the time. He was a highly celebrated Irish dramatist and author. This is a guy whose entire career, his whole livelihood, was built on writing dialogue, observing the tiny, fascinating nuances of human interaction, and staging the complex dramas of everyday life. And because he was a dramatist first and foremost, he knew exactly how to deliver a line that would permanently stick in the audience's mind. He fundamentally understood how to package a complex, maybe even deeply uncomfortable truth into a punchy, highly memorable piece of dialogue. He was an absolute expert at cutting straight to the core of a matter, and he hit the nail on the head with this famous idiom.
But to really grasp what Shaw is doing here, we've got to understand his specific tone. The quote is widely considered acerbic. Now, acerbic is just a fantastic word. It doesn't just mean bitter or indiscriminately angry, not at all. It's a tone that's wryly funny and explicitly born from the harsh realities of age. It's sharp, for sure, but there's a distinct wink to it. Shaw is deliberately playing with this very specific, knowing attitude. He's looking back at youth with this wild, complex mixture of envy, frustration, and a very dark sense of humor. He's acknowledging a harsh, undeniable reality of human existence, but he's doing it in a way that makes us chuckle, even if it's a slightly uncomfortable chuckle of recognition. And this perfectly sets up the exact physical and psychological contrast at the core of Shaw's argument. On one hand, you've got youth, and youth is pretty much characterized by simply not knowing what you have. When you're young, you've got this boundless energy, your joints don't ache, and you have this vast, seemingly infinite horizon of time stretching out ahead of you. But you entirely lack the perspective necessary to actually appreciate it. Then, on the other hand, we have age. This is that hard-won perspective that finally arrives, but right when simple things are harder to do and ultimately harder to enjoy. Talk about cruel irony. That's the tragicomic mismatch at the very heart of the quote. The profound appreciation for the vitality of youth only truly clicks into place at the exact moment when that vitality is fading away.
So here's the real kicker. Shaw didn't just stop at that famous one-liner. He actually elaborated, and the follow-up is arguably even more biting. He stated that young people are brainless and don't know what they have. They squander every opportunity of being young on being young. Wow. That completely reframes things, doesn't it? He takes the so-called brainless nature of youth, the lack of foresight, the endless distractions, the trivial dramas, and frames it as the ultimate squander. He's saying that the real tragedy isn't just that they don't appreciate youth. It's that they actively waste the incredible opportunities of that phase of life simply by acting out the trivialities of being young. They're literally too busy being young to actually use their youth. Which brings us to a deeply personal question. One I want to drop right into your lap. Are you squandering being young on being young? Obviously, young is a highly relative term. Whether you're 20, 40, or 60 years old right now, you are absolutely younger today than you're going to be tomorrow. So I want you to look directly at your own life stage, right at this exact moment. Are you so caught up in the trivialities of your current age that you're missing the vital opportunities right in front of you? Are you simply waiting for the perspective of age to finally appreciate what you have right now? It's a seriously provocative question, and it's exactly the kind of self-reflection George Bernard Shaw intended to provoke with his sharp, acerbic wit. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer, and I'm going to leave you to ponder that thought.